Hey everybody, it's Susan with Pumpkin Hill Stampers. I have our third bundle to go creation for the Petal palette suite. We're going to use the Designer Series paper today that coordinates with the seat, which is in black and white, as a background, and then we're going to pop it up and do some watercoloring with the roses. Okay, so let's just go ahead and get started. So when you get your kit, you're going to have a basic black card. And then you'll have a piece of thick white that you're going to stamp the roses and the bird on, and then cut those out with your frames. You've got two pieces of our 1/2-inch organza ribbon. This is the new organza. Hopefully it stays. I really like it. You've got red and white. Now I did red because I'm using red roses. If you decide you want to change out your roses for a different color, just swap out that piece of red cardstock for a color that coordinates, and you'll be good to go. Okay, we've got a card liner, and we have a little piece of scrap you can put on your liner there. And then our Designer Series paper for the first mounting background. And I really like this side too, but I thought that was a little busy behind the birds. So it's your card. You decide which side you want to use. But I'm going to use this muted kind of pussy willow looking background, is the way I see it. Okay, so let's go ahead and just get some mounting right out of the way and get some of our pieces taken care of. So I'm just nailing my DSP to the front of my card. Let's make sure you have a nice border around the edges. Okay. Then for the inside, okay, we're going to line it because it's a black card. So first I'm going to add the Whisper White. Now you might want to wait and stamp your expression or write your message in first and then add it in when you use the card. Or you might want to just do it right now, but I know we all sometimes make mistakes when we write, so if you want to save that piece tucked in your card until you're ready, you can always do that. And then I'm just putting that strip down the side. So there's our card base. That was pretty easy. So now let's go ahead and do some stamping. So I already stamped the flower and the bird and trimmed those out. I know you guys know how to do that, so you don't need to watch me do that on the big shot. Then I'm going to have this piece that we need to stamp on as well. So I'm just going to bring in a piece of scrap here. So I've got Real Red and Archival Black. I'm going to stamp my words first. This time I chose to use the Life is So Much Better With You in it. And I'm going to put that in that top right corner. Just like that. And then I've stamped flowers around the edge to kind of back up that big die cut flower. Okay, so you can just repeat the stamp. I'm just turning my stamp a little bit as I go, just to kind of give it a little variation in position. Okay, so there's that. Then I'm going to go ahead and stamp the polka dots from the set in Real Red, and I'm stamping that underneath my words and over the top of my flowers, just to kind of give that a little bit of texture while I'm working in there. Okay, so now we need to do some watercoloring. So I am using my aqua painter, and I'm just going to squeeze my stamp pad, transfer some ink to the lid. Okay, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to zoom in so you can see me work on this piece. Okay, so I'm just going to take my aqua painter, which is pretty wet, and I'm just going to pick up some ink on the edge. Now I don't want this super wet because we're not stamping on watercolor paper, we're stamping on Whisper White, so you don't want it super wet. Okay, you want to kind of just paint dry. But the reason I decided to paint was that I wanted some variation in the redness of the flowers. You know, as flowers open, they fade a little bit. So I wanted to give them that true look, that they weren't just a solid shade of red, that they have some variation. So now usually when I re-ink my aqua painter, when I pick up ink from the dish, it's going to be the darkest. So you might want to think about where you want your darkest shading and then work away from that point. And the other thing too is after this dries, if you decide you want more color, you can go back in and add shading. So just let your cardstock dry in between and try not to get it too wet in the process. You want to have wet but not dripping tip of aqua painter here. So can you see the way the color is not solid on the flowers? It's kind of variegated. So just enjoy your aqua painters. Enjoy spreading that color around. Now if you don't have aqua painters, you could do this with blender pens. And again, when you work with blender pens, I would say start, when you first pick up that ink, start where you want it the darkest and then work away from there. And you can pull that ink with the blender pen on your cardstock so you can get this variegated look. Alright, so there's that one, and now I just got to do these flowers. Now these are a little bit bigger surface, so I'm just going to go ahead and put some dark red on my flower where I think it would be darkest. And now I'm going to go back and kind of just paint as my paint fades out of my tip. Pull that color away from where my dark spots are. And you can tell on your aqua painter when your color is fading. You know when to pick up more. The other thing to do is if on these bigger images you want a little more freedom to paint, just let your aqua painter get a little bit wetter, but not too wet because you don't want your paper to bulge as it's drying. So remember, you're not working on watercolor paper, you're working on cardstock. Alright, so let's see, a little more red on these. Okay. Alright, so now I'm going to switch and do my leaves. I chose to use garden green. Of course, it's the only green on the card, so if you don't have garden green, you don't have to worry about it coordinating. You can pick up any green that you have in your collection to use. Wild wasabi is a nice option, or old olive is always a good green to use. And like I said, if you decide you don't want to do red roses, you're painting them. You can do whatever color you want. And if you want to just swap out that base cardstock piece that we're going to use to mount this on, that's pretty easy. So you can certainly make this card in a multitude of colors. Okay, so you see how I'm starting kind of around the stem and then I work my way out to the edge of the leaves when I'm painting, kind of pull that color away. Alright, so now I gotta go back and do the leaves on this one. These are pretty small, they don't take a lot of ink to fill in those colors. And the other thing too is we may not want it to look like a watercolored image, but applying the color in this fashion allows you to have light and dark spots. So I like pulling the aqua painters out, especially when I don't want my colors to be solid. I want them to have that variegation in there. Alright, so now we've got that done. Now you could use the aqua painter and a yellow to do your bird, but I decided I would just use my marker for the bird. So I'm just going to come over and shade my bird. I have birds singing in my yard, so spring has definitely arrived. So I want to do something fun for spring. Alright, so there's our pieces. Let's go ahead and put it all together. Let me zoom back out so you can see my total workspace here. Alright, so some pretty simple layering, right? We've got our greeting, and that's going to go right on our red. And then we're going to do the cheater bow. That's why you have two pieces of ribbon. One might be longer than the other, so do the wrap portion with the longer one. So I'm just applying my snail to the back. I'm running that ribbon across the polka dots, so kind of like a two-tiered texture there, and then I'm putting that right in the center. Okay, and you can always flip your card over and give it a good press so that you're not going to smudge any of that ink that might still be a little bit wet. Then we're going to put our rose on dimensionals and put that down on the corner of our card here. So this is going to overlap. So you can overlap it as much or as little as you want. This one I think I'm going to pull down a little bit more. Then I slide the second ribbon underneath, because remember we didn't snail down the top, we just snailed it to the back. And I'm going to tie this. Now if you decide to do a bunny ear bow, this is pretty short to do a bunny ear bow, but a cute little bunny ear bow would be kind of neat on this card. But I decided with the bird I didn't want that much bulk. So let's see. So after you tie your bow, you're just going to come in and trim them off. And then you can tuck that as close to those flowers as you want to. Okay. Then we've got our bird, which I'm going to pop up on a dimensional as well. And then I just kind of tucked my bird down behind the rose a little bit, kind of like he's peeking out. So do that again. Put him right there. And there we go. There's your card. Now, yep, we have to stamp our envelope. I think I'm going to use this small flower again. Stamp that in the corner. Nice and simple. And if you want to go ahead and add color to that as well, you certainly can. But again, this is an envelope, so it's a lot thinner than even our cardstock, so use a very light water for that, because you don't want your envelope paper to mushroom on you. I hope that makes sense. So this would also be a fun card to do with watercolor pencils, if you have watercolor pencils in your collection. So there we go. It all ties in together. Okay, ladies, so that's our third project for the bundle to go. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have fun putting it together. And if you decide making yours in different colors, I'd love to see them when you make them. So there we go. So until next month when we do the next project, enjoy and happy spring, and I hope to see you guys all in April when we stamp. So see you all soon. Bye-bye.